I would say most of 2022, probably. Like, we were doing over 100 million views a month.
That's true. Like, I feel like Twitter's the catalyst for all of that, though, too.
Twitter's a bubble, though.
You think so?
Find your group or your tribe that you can win with.
Interesting.
Like, together.
And you guys all level up together.
Yeah, you all level up. It's like, get quick, easy little wins and keep building up from there. It's like, if you don't have a solid foundation of where you've successfully completed like level 1, level 2, level 3, it's hard to go from level 0 straight to level 5. Welcome to episode 66 of New Money Talks.
On the money. That was good. We're excited. We have the founder of Our Future, Simmy.
Media expert.
Recently was acquired by Morning Brew. We're in the amazing Morning Brew office. So thanks for having us here, bro.
Shout out
Appreciate
Morning
you.
Appreciate
This guy knows a lot about short form clips, how to go viral on IG, TikTok, Twitter, not Twitter too much, more like YouTube and stuff like that, YouTube Shorts. Before we're in the car here, I was like, yo, Kyle, look at their page. You guys have like 600K subs on YouTube.
Yeah.
That happened in what, like a year or two?
Yeah, like 2022 was big for us.
Yeah, so like within a year or two, same with TikTok. So I'm excited because obviously this is like the big thing of like recent, obviously viral shorts and stuff like that. So I'm excited to have you. I think the best way to start this off is you just tell the people who you are, what you do and stuff like that. We'll jump into other stuff after that, but just so people know who you are for reference.
Yeah. So, graduated from college a few years ago. Big fan of media. I was consuming a shit ton of news like during COVID, and funny enough, I was like exploring these ideas where I was like, hey, I wonder if like there's a way to change how news is being consumed. And I was like, newsletters are cool. And I saw Morning Brew and I was like, that is like something I would want to do. But I just figured it was like a very saturated medium. And so like what I ended up doing is like I did a lot of research on like podcasting. And it was like during the big podcast boom. And like at the time there were two big categories. It was news and true crime.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
You know it's funny. We just had a guy named Ram Raviv, and he said that he had multiple channels
I've
on.
heard of him.
Yeah, he had multiple channels on about true crime that just absolutely crushed it. That's
so true crime was crushing.
Yeah, true crime is still crushing.
That's like, weird. That's so weird.
They're probably the biggest category if I had to guess
Really?
now. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like what, like dash cams and stuff like that of like cops, this type of stuff?
No, it's like more storytelling and stuff. So it's just like
interesting.
I don't know if they're real or fake.
Sorry to cut you off. Do you mind just holding the mic a little closer?
Yeah,
you're good. It's like, yeah, keep going. So you saw news and
true crime.
I've never even
A couple
heard of
different
that. Anyways,
categories of
Yeah.
content.
But like there was a big player in the news space, and it was the Daily from the
Okay.
New York
Mhm.
Times. They were the biggest podcast, I believe, at the time, and they were doing 2 million downloads a day.
Jeez.
So it was
Jeez,
crazy.
That's a
Right.
stat. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they were massive and they were just pulling in crazy numbers. And so I went down that rabbit hole and I was like, you know what? No one is doing like a 5-minute daily news podcast with like just no fluff.
Interesting.
And so
Okay.
that's what I did. I was just like, you know what? Screw it. Like I'm in college. I'm going to go do this thing. And so like
What was that called?
It was called the 5-minute drill.
Nice. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. And so I did it for 8 months, like did over 300 episodes.
Every single day.
Every single day.
Wow.
Jeez. Okay. That's commitment.
And
Yeah.
only like 5-10 minutes, so a lot more digestible than like
Not
an
even
hour-long
like it
one.
never exceeded 5 minutes. Like
Wow.
that was the whole premise.
Did
of
you
the
like
thing.
plan these every single day or just kind of just like off rip? Yeah, the
it was
script and
scripting.
everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
scripting it out. But like, dude, it was so funny. It was like one of those things that took way longer than anyone would have ever thought. Like
Yeah.
I was researching and scripting for 3 or 4 hours. I would probably
Damn.
take me 30 minutes to record, and then I was doing like post-production for an hour. And it was like every single day.
Yeah.
Wow. So you weren't going to class or school or anything this whole
No, I
entire
was.
time?
It
Oh,
was
you
just
were?
like-
Yeah, I'm joking. Yeah.
Afterwards, like
sure.
Like you can either be like a D1 athlete and go to classes, or you can be an entrepreneur and go to classes.
Exactly.
yeah, the challenge, I mean, it was like I hadn't figured out how to make money from it. Eventually,
Okay.
I did get ads and sponsorships, but I was just like, okay, I don't know if this is necessarily the right way to approach it. I think the idea still makes sense. In comes Michael, which is my co-founder, and I met him on LinkedIn. And he was doing a podcast where he was essentially interviewing C-suite executives at like massive companies. And it was like the kid from his dorm room. So that was like
Wow.
his shtick.
And
that was
they
his
would
thing.
answer him type of thing.
Yeah, because it was like the young kid in his dorm room in college, like trying to get interviews with C-suite people, and he would pull it off. And so
Yeah.
people were like loved it. And Michigan had wrote an article about him. And so I reached out to him just like super casual,
Mhm.
like, you know, hey, you look cool. Like, let's hop on a call. And we became like really good friends.
Yeah.
And so he ends up like switching to TikTok, and he kind of takes this news thing and he's like, you know what? No one is really doing the business side of TikTok just yet. Like there's no one covering business content and doing a good job at it.
And what year was this?
This would have been 2021, late 2021 to 2022. And so B-roll animated videos, and like kind of we were the first to the clips game. I ended up joining him, and we were just like, dude, let's go build a fat media company.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like our big thesis. We ended up selling earlier this year, and now we still continue to run the brand, but just under Morning Brew.
And you guys had never met in person type of thing, or just like solely LinkedIn?
No, no. Like when we were pals, like we were just like
For sure.
online friends and stuff.
100%.
But when we, I'm trying to think of the first time I met him in person. I think it was like we were co-founders at this point. Like it was like before we started to work together on our future. Like we had definitely met.
So in a
Okay.
sense, you both had like the same type of projects going on at the same time, like not identical, but like very similar,
Complementary.
And you guys came together and were like, all right, let's just do this together, right?
Yeah, in a way, like so I joined him at our future, right? So it was
Okay.
like I had my own brand, he was building his own, and it was like, okay, the TikTok thing makes sense because it was like this was the right idea. I just chose the wrong medium.
Mm.
Like podcast is just, like, as you guys know, is just like an uphill battle. Like you're just like it's like pushing a boulder up a hill.
It literally is, yeah.
But like
Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while we're at it. Yeah, keep
So
going.
funny, gotta
Sorry.
plug. Nah, but I'm just saying, like TikTok, it was like here you don't have to like try to find people. There are millions of eyeballs on this platform. You just have to deliver good content, and like you will grow.
Yeah.
And so it was just like,
That's fair.
how do we play this game on easy mode?
Interesting. So then, like, how did this whole like because I've seen the videos. There's like a very like they all look very identical, like setup wise, but obviously they're all about a different person every single time. How did that whole concept come about? Was he doing that originally? Did you guys kind of morph into that? Like, how'd that happen?
I think like you're referring to the thumbnails and stuff.
Yeah, the thumbnails
Yeah.
and like the storylines are like obviously they're all different stories, but they're all like very similar. Like the system is there, you know, it's the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, so Mike was just creating like general business story content,
Okay.
but I think it like just over time evolved, right? Like we found a theme that worked. We found a style that was
For
like
sure.
consistently hitting. And
Yeah.
it was like anytime we deviate, like performance would probably take a hit. And it
Hmm.
was like, you know what, at the end of the day, like we don't want to be glorified business influencers. Like we wanted to build a big business media brand. And like
Interesting.
that was like
and this
our
was your
goal.
way in a sense.
Yeah, this was just our wedge.
Definitely. And then I'm very curious because like it's kind of weird. Like it's something that's like never been done before. It's like very similar, like very interesting, but also at like the perfect timing, you know? Like shorts wasn't a really big thing before, say 2019, 2020. And I think you guys brought it to that next level in a sense, right? So like what like first of all, did you think it was gonna become a business? Because like I feel like also if you're in college, you're making videos, you're just posting them. Are you thinking about the business aspect of it? You're kind of just like doing it because you like doing it. And then when did it become
figure it out as I go?
yeah, like when did it become a business and all that type of stuff too?
It became a business pretty quickly, which was like, okay, we know we have millions of people watching this videos. Like,
Actually,
yeah.
yeah,
Like I would say most of 2022, probably like we were doing over 100 million views a month. Like,
wow,
like it was very serious. And so it was like clear, like there will be advertiser demand. And like the way we were pitching it to brands at the time was like, we are the brand safe destination in how you can reach Gen Z. And so it's like all of these big companies wanted to be on TikTok, but like I think there was still some kind of I don't know if stigma is the right word to use, but it was like they had a certain perception on it, which is like, yeah, they do want to reach young people, but like what I'm seeing is dancing content. It's a lot of pop culture. It's a lot of this. So like if we're trying to like advertise like a business related thing, like where do you go? And so
Interesting.
like our pitch was like, we are that place. Like if you want to allocate your dollars, like no better company than our future.
Interesting. And like how long are you spending on like a 30-second clip? You're probably spending a lot of time making that, are you not?
I mean, we have a big team now, so
Yeah.
it's like I think it's just like if you
Like, I actually, that's even more important because you're
Yeah.
like, I have a big team to make a 30-second clip. If you really think about that, right? That means a lot of work goes into making that clip that goes live.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you like simplify it, it's ideation, it's scripting, filming, and post-production. That's it.
For sure. And like and you have obviously a whole back end team that takes care of that, editors and videographers and sound and all this type of stuff too.
Yeah, I would also say it's like once you found a formula and a playbook, like you stick to it, like it gets easier and it gets quicker.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
More
Yeah,
reps
yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think ours is similar. Like we cut up everything into shorts and everything too, but it's like harder for us to go viral in a sense. I feel like your videos go a lot more.
It's because it's
viral
not like
easily.
curated. It's dependent on what the guest says or what we say in a natural conversation. It's not like we're intentionally designing a hook, an angle, a call to action, etc.
Yeah, are you guys thinking about that when you're making these videos? All
You
that
have
type
to
of
be.
stuff?
Totally.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember the other guy, what was his name, who was on the podcast
Rom.
too? Yeah, Rom was saying that he does the same exact thing. Like, he'll already think through every single step all the way, and that's the only way these things
Yeah.
are successful. Like, that's what you guys do, right? Like, literally.
Yeah, I mean, it's like let's take let's kind of do something I guess like spontaneous here.
Okay.
Like pick a story and we'll like
I don't know,
brainstorm
Tal,
it
pick
together.
a story.
Biggest story. I'm trying to keep it business related. How about what was that company that there's a lot of companies that go out of business. What was that one that we were talking about with
I guess we don't even have to do like a business story per se.
yeah,
It's
just like any like news
something,
story.
Say something that you'd want to make a clip out
Like,
of.
out of-
and we can, like,
something that just popped up.
re-engineer it.
Why Arizona iced tea stays at 99 cents?
Did you guys make a video on that one?
No, that's Rom.
Oh, Rom made a video.
Yeah.
Someone made it. Yeah.
I'm curious to hear what his perspective would be on that. So he made a video on why people think or why he thinks that how he knows that Arizona iced tea has been able to maintain their price at 99 cents, whereas the price of everything else, obviously,
We're putting you on the
inflation
spot
is
here.
going up.
I want to figure out how you do that.
So like, I guess what is the question? Is the question like, how would I construct that video, or is the question like, why did it work well for him?
Well, you tell me. You asked us what to talk about.
I guess my question was more of like, let's pick a random topic and like, let's engineer how we would make a
interesting.
clip out of it.
So,
Like, not someone else.
Okay,
Like rather like, let's just find something.
yeah.
And let's make a clip out.
How about Dubai and business
Okay, Dubai and business.
and accessibility to business because they give you free office hours. It's easy to set up and incorporate, whereas in the U.S. maybe it's a little bit harder. Or they don't
yeah,
give you
so
as
like,
much
yeah,
information.
Dubai's better than the
They don't
US
talk
for
about it in
business, something
school.
like that. That's like a topic, no?
Yeah, so like one example would be like, did you know you can make $100 million if you move to Dubai right now? Or like something.
So you
where-
ask him a question right there.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
start off with a question.
Yeah, or it's like, or I can like borrowed authority is another way, a big
Okay.
way that you can like.
What does that
Like
mean?
this guy made
this guy did this
by going
and
to
here's
Dubai.
here's the playbook. right?
Interesting.
Yeah, or you could just ultimately make it controversial on purpose.
Like, give me an example
You
of
have
that
to.
one.
Well, I mean, anything where it's like tax harvesting or saying that like, you're not
Yeah.
paying tax money is like
Controversial.
Getting people to argue in the
Yeah.
comments. Yeah.
Interesting. Do you guys have like a written out like SOP, like every video has to like hit this thing? You're just
It's
ripping
more
it.
of an art than it is like a
A
science.
science,
Yeah.
100%.
I think if you make it like that, like you're ultimately just gonna hurt yourself long term.
Got you. And then do you and Michael think of like all the like pretty much all the content, and then your team develops it all, or how does that work?
No, I would say that like Michael does most of the like the original content
For sure.
So I lead most of like the B2B services stuff we do.
Okay.
So it's like when we work with big companies, like I'm working on a lot of like the fulfillment there.
Okay.
He does like the fulfillment on the Our Future stuff.
Oh, I
So
see.
like because he has something that he does really well in and he excels at it, right?
Mhm.
Like this format, and so it's like he knows what he needs to do and he crushes it, right? So it's like
and he's making
my
one like,
endpoint doesn't really help.
and
him.
he's making one every day.
Yeah, I
give or
think the
take.
volume changes.
Yeah. So you're just like, that's crazy. I just think it's crazy that such like a simple thing was able to take off so quickly. Like you,
What was the timeline of growth?
like a year, right?
But like, what were
Here's
the
where it popped
milestones?
off.
What were
Okay.
the right? But like, what were the milestones? Like, 0 to 1 year might have been like 50K, and then 1 year to 2 years might have been 600K. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's hard to project when you're early in a trend,
Mm.
right? Because like what you're actually seeing is like ridiculous growth, which is like you can't actually project this out. You can't actually measure it, and it's somewhat of a black box. And so you're just like you're doing like little tweaks and testing to try to boil it down to a science, but you come to realize it's very hard to do that.
Yeah.
And what was the first platform you guys focused on? Was it TikTok?
TikTok, but we repurposed to all three of the platforms. So it was TikTok, YouTube, and IG. So that was also something I would say like we did smart very proactively, which was like, let's just run these clips on all three pages. And YouTube is the one that grew the fastest, funny enough. But like we always thought TikTok was going to be the big money maker. Like that's what brands cared about. And I would say that probably was the case, but I think now people are realizing like YouTube is where they want to build the audience. Like the quality of audience is just going to be higher on that platform.
100%.
My thing that was like some of these subscribers that you get from like shorts on YouTube, they don't feel as good as subscribers from like long form
dog
video.
shit.
Yeah, they feel like dog shit. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think like long form audience is like that's like it's gonna be higher quality,
right?
And like
I literally I feel like when we have like a short that pops off and we get like I don't know 1,000
because they're not watching for you,
right? They're just like
it's just the content being discussed.
100%. Yeah.
Have you ever had the experience of having a lot of those come in and then your content potentially being like suppressed? Because naturally your engagement rate is going to be super low if you get all these like short form subscribers and none of them are interacting with the rest of your content. Right. I don't know if you've ever experienced that where you just like power through it with more volume or better quality, but it's like, it's a thing that a lot of channels deal with is like they get all these followers and then maybe it slows down for a little bit and then it just screws their engagement rate. And it's like, how do you fix that? You know?
Yeah. I would say like in our case specifically, we never tricked ourselves. Like we said we were going to be short form guys and this was the medium and this is all we did. It wasn't until like we sold and we came under Morning Brew that we even experimented with long form content.
That's true. Yeah, you guys launched a podcast. Yeah.
Even when we have this podcast, it's an entirely different page and feed, right? So it's like we never conflated the two. And I think like if you're trying to leverage a shorts audience into long form, like you could probably still do it, but like you have to be smart. Like you can't be running the shorts playbook on a long form content strategy.
Yeah,
for sure. And also as a business, the first source of revenue was sponsors and everything.
Yeah, it was advertisers.
How'd you find advertisers in the beginning? I'm very curious.
I think a lot of it in the beginning was just like performance marketing. So it was just like actually we had a lot of success with newsletters. So like we did advertising deals with the Brew and with the Hustle at the time. And it was just like, hey, you know, if we drive X amount of subscribers from our videos, like we'll get paid out this much.
Oh, interesting. So, like a per subscriber rate type of thing.
Yeah, but it's performance, right? So it's like,
so they have
it de-risks it.
Interesting.
Right? Because it's not like we had case studies to pull from.
Yeah.
It's also like a new format. So like you don't know.
You'd have no idea.
So like it honestly, like it would not be smart for a brand to pay you like a fat base rate when they have no idea what could happen from this.
100%. And so like I'm assuming those were successful partnerships.
Yeah, but it got us started mostly, right?
Yeah.
Like it was a way for us to even build experience. Like we didn't know what we were doing. Like it was just like all learning along the way.
And how did you plug those like quote unquote ads into your content?
Have you seen one of our ads?
Not really. No, I didn't even know you guys ran ads within the content. To be honest,
they're very native. So we take a lot of pride in it. And so it's like if you watch an Our Future ad, you probably didn't even realize it was an ad until the very last.
Literally, I didn't know you guys ran ads until like you told me earlier today.
Yeah.
So it's at the end type of thing.
Well, it's more of a like. It's a very native integration. And so it's like we covered the company or the founder or the product in like our typical format. And then it like all loops full circle. And it's like, if you want to check out more, like
check over here. Oh, I see. That's smart. And like, are you guys like optimizing for any like kind of like click or something or like pushing to a site or like referral?
Yeah, it
links,
just
all
depends
this
on the
stuff?
brand.
Yeah.
And what they want out of it.
That
like,
makes sense. Yeah. I just ask because like, even on our end, we're always trying to like improve on that and get better at that too. So I was just curious how the hell you guys even did it. But that does make sense. In the beginning, you want to do kind of performance based, kind of prove yourself. And after you prove yourself, you can start charging for it in a sense.
Yeah, they were talking about it on MFM in this most past episode. And it's like, in the beginning, you have to find a no risk offer, right? Like, how do you make this a no brainer for someone that has no idea about what your company really like can
or
do
even
for
do
them?
it for free.
Yeah, or do it for free. I think you have to be smart with how you do it for free. You can't go from free to pitching very crazy rates, right? Like if your intent with it is just purely let me build experience and like I don't really care if this actually monetizes in the future, that's probably a good strategy. But I think there are ways to kind of be creative about it in a way that like if it does truly work, you can be compensated for what you did.
For sure.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like if you're new and you're doing the pay per subscriber thing, you're not gonna get a lot of subscribers. So it's like to them, it might not even be worth their time setting it all up and coordinating it. Whereas if you're just like, hey, like I'll do this completely for free, and then I'd like to use you as a testimonial for the next person that I might try to pitch. Like then you get that slight, that slow ascension ladder where it's like, hey, for you it's free, for you it's 80% off, for you it's 60% off, and then eventually you charge baseline and then you charge more. But because they saw that you did a partnership with someone else in the past, they don't know whether that was free or not. They just know that you did a partnership with this company that they recognize.
You have the logo on there, like it shows something.
And that's all that a lot of them care about. And then you can just gradually progress. So some people aren't even in a position to where the pay per click would even attract like, a morning brew or a hustle,
For sure. Yeah. I also think it's like, I don't know, like if you think about it, a lot of these brands, you have to just be very confident. Like it's like I've never gone to a big brand and been like, hey, we're, kind of new on the block. Like we don't really know what we're doing. Like it's always been like, we had an offer going into it and it was like, we always tried to make ourselves seem bigger than what we were. Like that I think was actually like a huge driver for us. Every time we pitched ourselves, it was like, if you're ignoring us, like this is like to your own demise. Like,
you have to.
Like we know what we're doing, and like there is major FOMO here for you.
For
like
sure.
if you don't get involved at this point in time.
How are you finding these like leads, pretty much leads into these big companies? Because you guys were just college kids or right out of school type of thing.
So yeah, my first million was like the big game changer for us. So essentially, they had a competition where it was like if whoever created the most viral clip and grew the account would win $5,000.
Okay.
So we ended up creating clips for my first million, right? And we ended up winning the competition.
What kind of clip was this that it went so viral?
It was several different clips, like
of their content.
Of their content.
Interesting.
And so that's how we won the account.
Oh, wow.
We ended up, winning the broader original shows.
So they pretty much opened the world up to you.
Yeah,
that's
and
awesome.
It was like, we were actually also just crushing it for them. And so it was like, hey, who does the editing for my first million? I want to work with those guys.
Interesting. Damn, that's crazy. So like pretty much you like found a random opportunity like online. It was like, hey guys, whoever wants to do this, go crazy.
Yeah, it was just like a random, just jump into it. Like,
and you just like sent them an email with the content. You're like, here you go. Like, or like in DMs, whatever. Here you go. These are good videos. Let me know what you think.
Not even that. It was like, we just published.
You published them.
Just, like, tagged them or...
No, so it was like tons of people were doing this. Like this was a full competition. Like
interesting.
They
That's super smart on their end.
Yeah,
just like getting like 1,000 people to like make a bunch of shorts.
We should do the same.
Yeah, you guys aren't the only ones. I just heard another pod yesterday, and they said the same thing. They're like, "We're running a competition. We'll give $1,000 to the person who like."
It is kind of crazy though. Like our audience obviously not as big as my first million, but there are people literally if we post on our story. Like they'll just like reply like that. It's like
cult following,
like you slowly gain that cult following over time. Like we posted a recently like a story where like, hey, if we were like come out with like a course, what would you want it to be on? And I thought like 5 people were gonna reply. I think we had like 400 replies.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, oh shoot. I was like, who are these people? Shout out to all of you guys. You know what I mean? But it is crazy that like that's how you got connected into that world. You guys like took that opportunity, posted it, and
built
like,
a nice strategic partnership.
Viral one in a sense.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's all about affinity though. Like at the end of the day, like people have to give a shit. Like to your example, it's like if they're replying, it's because they care.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
like,
100%.
If they don't, then like you don't really have much of a business.
And we also don't sell shit. That's another thing. Like I feel like the longer you go without selling anything or trying to monetize the audience, like the bigger the I guess the ask or the reveal for when you do launch something is. So like we're even holding off on that a little bit longer because we want to make something really good if we do come out with something.
What were you supposed to be doing if you didn't do this? I feel like this just kind of happened.
No, for sure.
Like what were you like in school?
What was the plan B?
Like, what was the plan A actually? I feel like this was just like a random thing that just happened.
The plan was always to go build my own company.
Oh, okay, that's good. Okay,
but like it being within TikTok and me being like within social media was like out of left field, but. I don't know. I think it just goes to the fact that like you can try to plan it out, but at the end of the day, like things are going to happen the way they are. And like, you just got to be okay with
For
that.
sure.
And it, honestly, like, not to even make this a religious thing, but oftentimes the outcome is significantly better than what you could have even planned, or like the opportunities you're exposed to. I was working in healthcare, like while we were building this company, right? Like, so.
Oh, yeah, you were in Eli Lilly, I think?
Yeah,
I saw that on your LinkedIn. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So I was working in healthcare. Like this was 2022, and Mike, I think, was about to graduate college because he had taken a gap year.
Okay.
And like, I remember it was just like, either we're going to do this and we're going to pull it off, or like, I'm going to have to stay here longer until I find the thing that can do that for me. So.
Damn. Well, thank God it worked out.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
That's
for sure.
crazy. Like, because literally, like, I feel like it happened overnight in a sense. Like, within a yearish period, it just kind of worked, right? I'm curious, like, actually, you probably don't know the answer to this, but like, what did Morning Brew see in a company like this? Like, have they ever been like open and be like, well, we want to acquire because of this, and this?
Like, you checked off these boxes.
I don't know if there's like a particular M&A strategy like they ever told us per se. It was more of like, we had gone to them and we had said, hey guys, like, we're trying to build this media company. Here's why we think it's going to work. We would love if you let our round.
Oh, you should kind of raise money.
Yeah, we were trying to raise money. That was like our initial touch point.
Interesting. Okay.
And Michael had gone to Michigan, and so had Austin and Alex. And so that was kind of like the wedge in there.
Ah, I see.
And so like, you know, that didn't materialize, but it was like, we just kind of stayed in touch and we were like giving updates and whatever. But like on paper, it also makes a lot of sense because like, they've dominated, you know, newsletters, and like they have a millennial audience for the most part. And like, we had just dominated at the time, like short form video, and it was like the next big thing. And our audience was Gen Z. So it's like, if you put those together, like it
was like a missing
nice
piece
picture
to the puzzle there.
Yeah.
Interesting. So like, you guys were trying to raise some money for this.
Yeah, we didn't end up doing it.
Okay, you didn't at all.
No, because it was like,
well, honestly, what did you even need the money for though? Like, what would you...
Our entire plan was like, we're going to go into different verticals. And like right now, at the time, we still are as like very general business, but we're going to take this model and go into different verticals, and we're going to try to scale this. I think it was just like, we had gotten some people to actually commit to doing it. And then me and Michael just looked at each other and we were like, dude, I don't know if raising money for a media company makes a ton of sense. Like the case studies of other people who've done it, just like it ends up horrible for them.
Yeah.
Like, Vox, Vice, BuzzFeed, like no one can say like it's actually done a good job.
It makes a lot of sense. And I feel like if you try to like, I feel like what happened with you guys kind of works out really well because now you have like the backing of a Morning Brew and like the experience of a Morning Brew that can kind of propel you guys to get to that next level of like, multiple verticals, et cetera, and stuff like that, you know? And it kind of helps the whole ecosystem grow as a whole.
And they have their systems that you're walking into as well that you probably didn't have prior to working with them, right?
Yeah, for sure. You get resources that you wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah,
right? We didn't have studio space for a podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that kind of stuff is cool.
What was the thought to start the podcast? Because I know that's been pretty up and coming lately too.
It was more like an extension of a brand. Like at this point, it's just become like we cover founders and successful founders, but we felt like there was an opportunity because young people who were killing it in business were really being highlighted. It's like, yeah, you do have certain lists. Like, yeah, you have like 30 under 30 and you have a lot of these other ones, but it felt a little cherry picked, and it felt like there weren't that much exposure that they get. Maybe you raise a big round and you get a TechCrunch article, but like that isn't. There are so many people crushing it at a young age that 100%. Aren't raising a shit ton of money.
Yeah,
and like they're also just very low key. And so if we can give those people exposure, like we'll probably have something cool on our hands. And
interesting.
So far, it seems to be like that thesis was
for sure
was right.
And like, I think it's kind of cool because you could take like the long form ones, make short form, you take the short form, make long form. It's kind of like an ever kind of just cycle of content.
Yeah, it's a flywheel for
literally
sure.
a flywheel. How big is the team behind you guys that does all the work and kind of the back end?
So at this point, it's still like we're all independent contractors, like underneath us. I would say like tens of editors at any given moment. Like even like our account managers are part-time.
Oh shoot.
Yeah.
Damn. What does an account manager do per se? I'm curious.
So like on our B2B services side,
Okay.
like it's like anything client interfacing.
You want to go into that too, the B2B part of this? I'm curious of that business as well too. Because like,
what do you want to know?
Like, there's two pieces of this where like you guys create your own content, and you guys create content for other people too, right? When did that come about? Like, how did you guys think like, oh, let's do it for us, but also do it for somebody else too?
It was my first million.
Oh, my first million. Got
That
it.
was the one
Oh,
where
I
it was
see.
just like, yo, like we have fallen into like a tremendous opportunity here.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
could do
yeah,
it for them. Like
We
why
can do it
would
for
we take-
anyone.
For do it for
Yeah.
anybody.
But I would say like the tough thing is now short form is very commoditized. Like
Yeah.
the clips, everyone is doing clips.
Well,
Like,
everyone
Yeah.
gets like DM like 10 times a day. Hey, I can
yeah,
make a
it's
clip
like
for you.
ghostwriting and clips. And it's just like, hot damn. Like if
Yeah.
we were, 2 years earlier, like this would have been even bigger. Right.
For sure.
Like it is all timing at the end of the day. I would think if you were trying to replicate our business model today, like the strategy we use to grow our future, it would be very, very, very
think so?
hard.
And what do you think right now is working then for someone to grow an audience like that?
It's tough. I think it does come back to what you want. From what I'm seeing a lot of is like people are trying to build big personal brands and like they're trying to do these like holding company type things where it's like, oh, like I just want to create an umbrella where I can go tackle every opportunity that comes across my plate.
Interesting. Okay.
So I'm seeing less of like pure play people are trying to make brands and people are just trying to create them, like turn themselves into
it's
brands
like a
of sorts.
business. Like
Yeah.
the person's
Yeah.
a business in a
Yeah,
sense.
I think a lot of folks in ecom do this actually. Like they create
Yeah.
a shit ton of content and then it's like, we got events, we got this, we got that.
Events are the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Everyone's throwing the dinners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big in New York. That's crazy.
But I don't see too many people doing it from like a brand play. Like, no, I haven't
what,
seen.
what do you mean by from a brand play?
It's like, okay, if I was like, hey guys, you want to start a media company? Where would you guys probably go? What's the first thing you would start?
Like something on social media, probably.
Okay, so it's probably social or it's a newsletter.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Newsletter.
I was gonna say like Beehive.
Like
I'd open up
Beehive's
Beehive
popping
and, like,
off. Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, those are still like small. Like it's like it ties back to somebody's personal brand.
Oh, like there's like a face to these people in a sense.
Yeah, like it's just like an extension of
Like everybody on
themselves.
Twitter who has a
Yeah,
newsletter as well too, and like sells a course or sells a service on Twitter, something like that.
Yeah,
all
and
the way
so
down
that's
the
more
stack.
of what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
saying. Like I guess Greg Eisenberg talks a lot about this, right? Like the multipreneurship
Yeah,
stuff.
I've seen him on
Yeah.
Twitter talk about that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's what you're seeing more of. But I just deep down, I love businesses, and I would position my stuff a little bit differently. Like I would continue going down the route of like, how do you build like a big brand? Like I guess like that's
Mhm.
just
where
Yeah.
when you think of a company, you don't think of a founder, you think of the company.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. And I think now it's like you may or may not know the company, but you're hearing more about the founder, and that's like I don't know if this model is sustainable long term, candidly, but like that is what I'm seeing.
That's true. Like I feel like Twitter's the catalyst for all of that though too.
Twitter's a bubble, though.
You think so?
Yeah, to some extent.
But-
I don't think most of the world operates that way. There's
No, of
tons
course
of
not.
people
Well,
who
like-
build massive
Yeah.
businesses.
Well, we have like
on
this
Twitter.
weird ecosystem of like millennial Gen Z people on Twitter that like makes it seem so much bigger than it actually is. Because you are right. Like there's so many people who are extremely successful have no clue like how to use Twitter, for God's sakes. And then there's people like us who're just like, yeah, everything on Twitter is like God, which is like
Gold
nah.
mine.
It's
Yeah.
a gold mine. Yeah. But like all these people are building these like kind of personal brand businesses. Like it's weird. And I feel like they can't last forever, you know what I mean? Because at a point, like you can only exhaust your audience so much. And you like have to have a moat in a business around it. No?
Well, you have to think about it too, right? Like if I'm on the other end of this, right? Like I'm not the person actually creating the content. I have nothing to gain. I am a consumer. It's like, how many newsletters am I going to subscribe to? Like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like I'm only probably going to read like 3 or 4. Like same with
Yeah.
podcasts, right? And so if you're doing the same strategy
That's
as
fair.
50 other people, like how do you expect to actually like, move forward,
Move
like
forward.
get to the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
level? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where it's flawed. It's like, I think it's like, this is how any hype or trend works, right? It's like someone is making a shit ton of money. They are talking about how they're making shit ton of money. Everybody runs in that direction. And then it's like, okay, well now you're competing for scraps because
it's like,
literally
where's the next
Nobody's making
opportunity?
money. Yeah.
And then everyone's looking for the next opportunity.
Yeah, that's the issue with like chasing trends
For
and
sure.
chasing hype.
I saw you also started doing like angel investing. I saw like a few things you did, a few deals. How'd you think to get into that too? Because I feel like that's a whole different world in a sense of just like throwing money at random ideas.
I don't take it seriously.
You don't, right?
No,
okay.
no.
Got you.
I don't know if I'd ever be an investor, to be honest. Like, that's a very different muscle. I honestly think it's like, there's some people who say like, you know, you can be you should go be a really successful founder, then you should go be an investor. There's other people who are just like, you know, investing is like, it's its own game. You like, to be a good investor, you have to be all in. Like, and I get that, right? Like, it is, you know, if you're trying to build a business, you have to be a risk taker. If you're trying to be a good investor, you have to minimize risk, right?
Fair,
and so like, that's a different mentality. And so I don't know if I'm quite like on that side where I'm like ready to be done with risk and play a little bit of a safer game. Maybe when I'm old.
Like, and you're young, you're 25, so it's like you have a whole bunch of we're all 25. It's like it's kind of crazy. We were talking in the elevator. We're like, it's like a weird age where like you think you're old, but you think you're young, and you don't kind of know where you are in a sense.
My friend Sully had a funny tweet about this. He's like, 25 is a weird age because like you feel behind, but you're also still ahead compared to like most of your peers for like this bubble that we're in.
Yeah. That's true. You could just got a job and worked in like banking or consulting or whatever it is, tech.
Yeah, but most people aren't even doing that. Like,
that's
you know
true
what I mean?
too.
Like,
that's true. That's true as well. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No. When you put it into perspective, like, because we think it's kind of crazy because you probably hang out with people who are older than you, more successful than you for the most part. Like, you hang out, like, your friends are like maybe in their 30s or like early 30s, kind of mid 30s. You're like, oh, shoot, like, how'd they do that? And then you forget, you're like, oh, crap, they have like 10 years on me. And then you look at your cohort of people and you're like, well, they're not doing anything. So it's kind of like, it's a weird spot to be in.
I would say, like, generally speaking, my thought has been like, it's not always so helpful to like watch the people who are 15, 20 years ahead of you because they're like very removed, right? Like their circumstances are very different. Like in our like specific time frame or age that we're in, I would be advocating most people to like find the other young people around you that you would bet on. It's like, I don't know if this business per se is going to be the one, but like you will find a way to win. And I want to make sure that like we are pals. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's what happens is like, you know, Sam talks about this a lot, right? Like even on MFM, but it was like, you know, a lot of the people who were a part of his original book club, like when he was in SF, when he was like super young, are now all doing extremely well. And I think like that same thing applies. Like find your group or your tribe that you can win with, like together.
And you guys all level up together.
Yeah, you all level up. It's like everyone is hungry. Everyone is like ambitious. They all want to get to the next level, but like, it's not a point where it's like transactional in any way. It's like you truly are just like,
for sure,
you want to support each other and you guys do want to like,
and you guys go through like shit together too, where it's
totally.
like you have a bad day and like you text your buddy, you're like, yo, you do this, dude, I've dealt with that like last week. So like you understand. That made me think, was there any not good times running this company in a sense? Was it always just up and to the right? Or was there one day you guys logged in so you're like, shit, why are my videos not getting any views? Like I'm curious, was there any like tough times running this business?
Yeah, tons of tough times. Like we were advertising a product that like there was not really like a reference point for it. Like there was no, hey, this is a dominant video, you know, like business media player in the short form space. And like you guys have deployed ad spend with them, so you should do it with us. Like we were always the comp. Like
that's fair.
Like it was like, oh, like I know you guys are spending money with our future. You guys should do it with us. So that's kind of the tough thing is like, I'm not going to say like we trailblazed in an industry per se, because like all of this was relatively small, but like we were early, and that's kind of the challenge with being early is you have to be the one to figure it out.
Interesting.
And you are creating the rules, and then everyone will follow those rules.
Got you. So, and you had like pretty much you walk into an office and you're just like, they're like, what are you doing? You're like, honestly, we're figuring it out right now. And here's the price. So like, do you want to do it?
Yeah.
But confidently. That's very interesting. Yeah, confidently.
Very confidently.
Obviously. I feel like you are very confident too, which is good. Like I feel like you have to be confident in kind of this business. Or like you're confident in your content, confident in the product, confident in like the team, all the above, you know?
I think it comes over time. Like I think like most things, it's a momentum thing. So like get quick, easy little wins and keep building up from there. Right. And like it's hard that's the challenge with like trying to tackle a big problem is like if you don't have a solid foundation of where you've successfully completed like level 1, level 2, level 3, it's hard to go from level 0 straight to level 5.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
So find like low hanging fruit and just like keep growing from there. That's been like one of my biggest learnings.
100%. What do you guys? You had something on your tongue you wanted to say? I cut you off.
There's a lot of, so I guess a lot of our following has e-commerce businesses, and they're in that kind of space where they're selling physical products online, and they're also trying to branch off into the world of media, because now we're in like an attention economy. A lot of the brands that I see crushing it are the ones who have the best organic foundation, because that's like the pillar of your ad content, your brand awareness, all that good stuff. And so to a brand owner, I don't know how much you've worked in the physical product space, but a lot of these content principles are universal. Like, what would you advise a brand owner that is trying to build their content foundation? Like, what platform should they start on? What's their first hire that should be in the content space? Like, I'm curious to hear your perspective versus like what I've seen and what other people are probably thinking.
So I will say it depends on the product, but like it's truly a follow the money kind of game. Like, for example, why do most e-commerce brands push for organic? It's because they have limited budget to spend in the first place, right? Like the margins don't support them being able to do big ad deals, right?
Yeah.
So they have to figure out like Oliver from Tabs, like he's a good example of this, right? It's like you don't have very much money in the first place, so you have to be scrappy and you have to find like this arbitrage where you can get talent to create a shit ton of videos for you with the hope that one or two of these will hit.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's more of a like circumstantial thing. Like you have to do this rather than like you want to do this. And so I would say like find like his playbook will continue to work. I feel like if you continue to play a volume driven game, I would say like, but you need to optimize for one or two channels. I think the challenge is that like, if you have limited resources to begin with and you're a small company, like you have no business being on like 5 or 6 different platforms. Like, you need to be either on Meta or you need to be on TikTok. Yeah. Like, and that's it. Like, and you need to find a way to make one or ideally both of those work. Yeah. Right. Like, if you're trying to do this like omni-channel approach and it's like a very small brand to begin with, like that's tough. Like, that's probably what I'd say.
I like that. I like that. Cause we've had some brands that have come into our agency and they've like been on 5 different channels in which none of are working. Maybe they have one that's working a little bit better than the other. And we're like, why? Why don't you just sit down and double down on one? And then if that works and it's like automated or at least scalable to where you have enough profit to where you can reinvest into the others, like then you can move more linearly than like sporadically or trying to attack everything at once. I think a lot of small businesses follow in the steps of big brands without the same resources as the big brands.
Yeah. And it's like, they also scaled up to that point. Right. Like if you're looking at the big, competitor who does hundreds of millions of dollars a year, it's like they weren't on all of those platforms back then. Right. I mean, like everyone knows this, but like TikTok Shop is the most underutilized tool still. And it will continue to be that way as it stays subsidized. Like as long as TikTok continues to subsidize this thing, there is a gold mine. Like if you're like trying to build a product, like find your gimmicky thing and go make your money. Like that's probably what I would say.
Yeah. Did you have any background in e-commerce before you were doing this? Not at all.
No.
Even now, but you've
learned the game.
You seem pretty well versed in this stuff. Yeah.
Well, it's like I've been in Austin for the past 2 years and it's like a consumer hub. And it's also like, yes, like a lot of creative content inspo comes from what e-com brands do because they're doing so much of it.
Well, because they have to succeed at this stuff. You know
they have to get it right.
Literally, because especially like a brand like Tabs, right? You can't even run ads on Facebook for God's sakes. Because it's like a bad product, whatever. It's against the policy. So like his thing worked really, really well. And like you are right, like that volume game is something that probably does keep working. Honestly, across all platforms, you just got to focus on the one. Like even if you did it on Twitter, it probably would work. Or YouTube Shorts, it'd probably work. Just got to like pick the one and just nail down, become like kind of the best at that,
That gives me a really good question. So when we do shorts, we just take one clip and we try to make it one size fits all for all channels. Do you guys do the same thing or do you personalize it like differently across multiple channels? Right? Like on YouTube, would you have the text or the editing or have like a thumbnail or change the caption? Would you tailor it in any way? Because I feel like we don't do that, but I feel like that could help.
I'm a big believer in just keeping it simple, to be honest. I don't change it. I think I just try to make sure the content itself is good. Like at the end of the day, like we're just telling a good story and that like you're following like the basic elements of storytelling that you were taught in like kindergarten, right? Like
Sure.
good hook, then you're like taking them through the journey, and then you've come out with like a solid end, and like
that's it.
like
that's crazy.
If you do that enough times, you'll just learn how to optimize it to the right style over time.
Yeah, and it's like, I guess it's just like keeping your eye open for literally like anything can be flipped in a way that can be made a clip for, right? Like, and literally all of the topics we've talked about, like, we could have like scripted this out, and this could have been like for sure, and it would have probably performed decently well.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think this has been great, and like I know you guys have your own podcast. What's the podcast called for people to look it up too?
It's called Our Future Podcast.
Easy. Obviously, link will be in bio for that one. No, but like this is cool. I think it's a very like Gen Z kind of company where it's like very new. Like there's no other, pretty much you are a trailblazer in this space. There's no other like examples of this. So you guys kind of did create your own path. I feel like people just started copying you in a sense after that, which is like, you did something right? Like that makes a lot of sense. No, man, like I think I learned a whole bunch. And I think like, honestly, after this, we're going to like change our clips just a little bit. Cause I do think like that storytelling makes a big difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like obviously cutting up podcast clips here and there, it's like great. We have something that go viral, but like, the tweaking of the storytelling, like,
you don't have control over it.
Yeah, you have no control over that. That's the thing. So it's like if none of us say anything that kind of out of pocket,
controversial,
it's like hard to go viral.
Yeah.
That's why, like, even with me and Michael, like, we dictate what is being said on our show. Like, it is a talk.
Like you have
show
those
on
questions
purpose.
just like pre-calculated.
It's like we know the playbook, and we're not gonna just leave it all on the guest, because like then you're so dependent on what they say.
Seriously.
Right? But it's like, I know what I need to say. He knows what he needs to say. And we just play into it. And it sounds like you guys know that.
Yeah.
For the most part.
We try to like we try to come up with those on the spot, but we really should be preparing questions beforehand. Cause then you can plan it out like and control the way that the conversation goes a little bit, but still have these like open, casual conversations. It's not like every question is going to be super tactical or like button pushy, right? But every other one, maybe.
Yeah, it's like you guys are talking about an ecom brand, right? Like in an example, to someone's so you ask the question, they're talking about something ecom related, and then you come out with a question. It's like, hey, have you heard of this company that I saw on blah blah blah? It's like, oh shit, I did hear about that company. They're doing over 10 million in revenue. And then it's like, oh, I thought it was because they were doing this and this, right? And so it's like you guys can
play back and forth. Now 100%.
You guys also have good control over that though, because it's not often that you're bringing on guests, right?
Yeah, but I think it's like even with the answers they give, we can kind of flip that in a way that like our answer could generate a clip out of it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Do you have any off the rip, anything that you think would rip as a clip right now? Anything that you've seen in the market that's like, damn, this company is kind of insane, or like, oh wow, like I saw this in the news and like that's happening kind of in this space? If you don't, I just put you on the spot. It's all good.
Not off the top of my head, but after we did get done filming, I'll workshop.
One crazy one that like I saw in my first million that like I told Kyle was like that plunged at $100 million. I thought that was actually kind of crazy, and like the math actually kind of made sense because it's only like $2,000 a month to like make that much money.
It's like a $5,000 unit average or $6,000.
I was only thinking that because he has like a cold tub and everything, so he does all this like crazy shit.
Oh yeah,
it's expensive.
But, like, they made a crap ton of money so fast, and like I'm like, how's it even possible? Just like selling like I don't know like plastic tub. Like it's like kind of nuts. But anyways, I'm good. I don't have anything else. My questions are done here. Appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you if they want to find you?
Catch me on Twitter. It's _Simmy_ or IG. I'm .Simmy.
We'll have a link in the description.
We'll have a link in the description.
Yeah.
Whoever the sponsors are, appreciate you guys. Shout out. It's always the same thing. We never know when the episodes come out because they're all like, this is probably going to come out
a month or two in
February
advance. Yeah, end of January or beginning of February.
Yeah, so like shout out to the sponsors. We appreciate you. We love you. Shout out to the subscribers. We appreciate you. We love you. Go like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on IG. Follow them on IG. And we'll see you guys on
and happy holidays to everyone in the past.
Happy holidays, too. Happy back holidays.
Happy past holidays.
Anyways, catch you guys on the next one.
See you in the next one.